Hey, Mitch.
Oh, hey, Ed, what's going on?
Hey, I was thinking we could talk about Young Sherlock Holmes. Do you remember that movie?
That was a great movie in the 80s. I loved it.
Yeah, it was a bit underrated. I thought it had, great cast and music and everything like that. And I especially like the pyramid and that great scene with
You hear something buzzing?
no, I don't hear anything.
Oh, all right.
Anyway, it's got some great links to, Indiana Jones and also to, obviously Stevens. Ooh. Anyway, I just wanted to show you something.
Bugs?
So no, I wanted to show you something.
Valentine! Valentine!
Mitch, I just wanted to, say, what do you think of this new stained glass window filter on Zoom? It's pretty groovy. Mitch, Mitch, where'd you go? Let's just start the show. Hi, this is Ed Dollister.
And this is Mitch, the game's afoot Halleck.
And welcome to another exciting episode of Mitch and Ed's Excellent Adventure. If it's your first time here, thanks so much for joining us. If you are a regular viewer, thanks for coming back. Mitch, before we start today's topic, how can you find out a little bit about our show?
What the heck? Elementary, my dear Ed. You're glowing over there.
Am I?
Something, you're lighting up like the judges on Krypton. I don't know what's going on. But anyway, the simple deductive reasoning, Ed, by ruling out all the things that are possible and only the impossible remains, you simply have to hit the subscribe button below, and you will go on an adventure with Ed and I every other week as we unravel the mysteries of the days gone by and talk about movies, TV, and more right here on the mighty YouTube. Where are we going today,
So
Ed?
we're going to almost like Victorian England to look at one of my favorite movies of all time, actually, Young Sherlock Holmes. It came out in 1985, mid to late December of that year. You could almost call it a Christmas movie, I suppose. There is some Christmas caroling in it, but it didn't really do as well as everyone hoped, given that it was a Steven Spielberg production and had a lot of the elements that we all loved in those days with ILM, a great score, and a really good script by Chris Columbus. Did you see it in the
Yes,
cinemas?
I did. I was looking forward to it for those same reasons because I was a huge Spielberg fan, coming off of course, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. But 1985, it was just like a smorgasbord of Spielberg because in the last couple of years, we'd had Poltergeist, we had Gremlins, we had Indiana Jones, Goonies, everything was coming up Spielberg. And this was just another one added to the kit. And you thought it was going to be gangbusters. And honestly, as a fan of Spielberg movies and all the other stuff, it is. It really is. I don't, regardless what the box office says, it's right up there with all my other favorite Steven Spielberg films.
Yeah, I
Even though
think
he
it's
directed, it was
sorry,
directed by
no, he
Barry
didn't. He
Levinson.
produced it. It was directed by Barry Levinson, who I suppose most people know best for Rain Man, which he
I
did
was
later
thinking
on.
Diner.
Yes, he
Diner.
did.
Yeah.
So he's probably not a genre sort of style director, but I think it works really well. And the script by Christopher Columbus is really clever. You don't need to know a lot about Sherlock Holmes, but he weaves enough into the story where you can find out how about his love of violin, where he gets his deerstalker hat, where he gets his signature
Well,
jacket, the pipe, all these different things, and I suppose how he ends up being that cold and calculating sort of sleuth, from the books and the movies that everyone knows. I really love this film. In Australia, it was actually called Young Sherlock Holmes and the Pyramid of Fear. And it was
oh,
also called that in Europe when they opened it when it opened, because it opened a little bit after the United States. And the poster was quite a lot different as well. In the this was sort of, I mean, that's not exactly what the poster was like. This is the
yeah,
DVD version here. Um,
right.
but and I couldn't find. I've got it on VHS in this clamshell case, and I couldn't find, of course, couldn't find it amongst, you know how it is, all the stuff. But in the picture on the poster for the young Indiana Jones, young Sherlock Holmes and the Pyramid of Fear, they've got him standing on the top of that, you know, the chandelier from the
Yeah.
pyramid. You know, he's holding a torch. It looks all very Indiana Jonesy,
Yes.
and I think that's what I liked about it. But it's
Yeah.
unfortunately didn't really fly with audiences. It did cost $18 million to make. It made about I think 19 million in the United States, but worldwide overall it made $63 million. So it didn't lose money. It just wasn't the box office hit that it could have been, unfortunately. There was a great cast though. Nicholas Rowe, who looks exactly like you would imagine Sherlock Holmes. Alan Cox, Brian Cox's son. He
Yeah.
was, you know, my age when the film came out, so I sort of really connected with him. You had Sophie Ward, who I remembered from Return to Oz. She was one of the you know, the headless princesses
Oh, yeah.
in
Yeah.
there. You had Susan Fleetwood, who played Mrs. Dribb, and who you find out, you know, spoilers, that she's one of the bad guys, the actual sister to Atar. And she actually, I remember her because she played Athena in Clash of the Titans.
Oh, I didn't
Yeah,
know that.
and she
Anthony. Oh, go ahead.
no, she was Mick Fleetwood's sister.
Oh, did not know that.
Yeah, there you go. And of course, there's a lot of Indiana Jones
Yes.
connections to this film, apart from, you know, obviously presented by Steven Spielberg. You had Industrial Light and Magic
Well,
do the visual
you
effects.
forgot the cast. You left
I'm
Anthony
no,
Higgins.
I'm going. I'm
Oh,
heading
all right,
there.
I was going to
I'm
say you
heading
didn't
there.
finish the
I'm
cast.
saying with
Okay.
the Indiana Jones connections because you've got Kit West, who was there. Norman Reynolds, God rest his soul, who only passed
That's right.
away
A few
a
days
few
ago.
days ago, as of this recording, as a production designer. But you had Anthony Higgins, who we all know from Raiders of the Lost Ark as
Gobler.
Gobler. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I had no idea that was him until I'm going, where do I know him from? And he played Professor Wraith, who you find out
Yes.
is actually Atar, who is
Spelled
actually
backwards.
Moriarty. And this film has
Yes.
got, I don't know if it's the first film to do it, but it is an awesome post-credit sequence. You know, you sort of think of all the Marvel films that do it in DC, and then
Yeah.
earlier on, the Pirates of the Caribbean films all had a post-credit sequence. But this, I think, predates even Masters of the Universe, because that had a post-credit
Mhm.
sequence, I think. But this one, where you find out that Atar or Wraith has actually survived, and he signs it Moriarty, and I thought, "Oh, I can't wait for another film."
Well, you keep waiting, buddy, because it didn't happen.
I know there was no film,
No,
unfortunately.
no.
Do you know
But
something? Yeah.
I was going to say, did you know, Ed?
Mm.
There's a lot of other things going on in this movie besides that. Michael Plug, who you do not know, that I know as the artist Mike Plug, is a Marvel comic book artist of fame. He was the production artist on this. He's listed in the credits. Very famous for working at Marvel Comics in the 70s, drawing books like Werewolf by Night, The Man Thing,
Mm-hmm.
who's back there. He
Yep.
was there, but he was actually on set doing all the designs and everything too. You mentioned Kit West too.
Yes.
Uh, one of the other people that is mentioned on the credits, and I was going to ask you, it said Stephen Norrington, who I believe becomes the director of League of Extraordinary Gentlemen and the first Blade movie. I believe
Ah,
it's the same guy because when I was looking at the list of credits, I saw Mike Plug, and then underneath him I saw Norton, and I go, "Wait a minute, is that the guy that Sean Connery got in a fist fight with on the set of League of
it
Extraordinary Gentlemen?"
it might be. I didn't make that connection. I did see that Gavin Bouquet was assistant art director, and
Yep.
he was the production designer for Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the
Yep.
Sith, and a lot of the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles as well. Um,
And ILM. Oh, we didn't even going to talk about that. The first Pixar
well, that's
ever. Go ahead.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's actually a groundbreaking film for that visual effect of the stained glass window guy, which is, yeah, the very first fully computer generated character.
And the other bit of information there, if you want to go into besides Luke Spielberg connections, there's a lot of Sherlock Holmes connections in it because the actor who plays her uncle, the mad scientist fella, he played Watson in the Peter Cushing Sherlock Holmes films in the 60s, I believe. Nicholas Rowe appears in the Ian McKellen film
Mr.
about Sherlock
Holmes.
Holmes, where Sherlock Holmes is a real person and he goes to see a film about Sherlock Holmes, and the character in the movie is being played by Nicholas Rowe. So it's kind of like he played him twice. And did you know the opening title sequence was an homage to the Basil Rathbone Sherlock Holmes films, where they had the shadow across the middle of the
Oh, I did
screen,
not know
the
that.
credits roll? That was a little homage to that. And did you know Wraith, the villain's name, which is Etah spelled backward, we found out
Yes.
later on, or whatever, that was for Basil Rathbone, who became Sherlock Holmes in the series of films. Rathe was a little salute.
Oh, for Rathbone. Okay, that's
Rathbone.
interesting.
So that's
I
where they
had
got
no,
that from.
I didn't know that.
That's why we do this show together, Ed. I
That's
fill in
good.
your
That's good.
gaps.
Of
There you
course,
go.
the last one to in the cast to round out was Freddie Jones, who you would know from Krull as.
Krull and Firefox
Oh
and
yes,
Dune. I hate Freddie Jones. I'm sorry. I can't stand that actor. I can't. Whenever he's in a movie, I go, oh my God. He's worse actor than I am, for Christ's sakes.
no,
Now
no
I'm
one's
gonna
that
ask
bad.
you, what was Freddie Jones's like claim to fame other than overacting?
His eyebrows.
Yeah, okay. I mean,
I,
seriously, was he ever like a big hit? I don't know where he came from, but he seems to be in a lot of movies, and he's just annoying. I can't stand his acting style. It's just me, but
I'm sorry I brought him up.
I'm sorry. Is you bring? Well, as soon as I saw Freddie Jones, I was like, oh my God, Freddie Jones, Jesus Lord, whatever. So yeah, he and I don't get along well. But
Okay.
no, the film has great production values. It was filmed, I believe, in Oxford, England,
Hmm.
so much so that the fake snow that they used killed the grass that they were filming on, and Steven Spielberg had to pay money to reseed and replant all the grass on the grounds because their special effects killed the actual lawn.
Mm.
Did you? There you go.
I I
Did
think
you?
one of the standouts is that are the special effects, and of course, with the hallucinations, and we've
Yes.
got this. Everyone looks at the stained glass window as an amazing piece, and it still holds up really well
It still
today.
holds up too.
But some of the stop animation that
Mm.
ILM Dennis Murin is the guy who did is the visual effects coordinator. Some of that stop animation of the
Huh.
flying, the animatronics, the stop animation where I love with the pastries that come to life. And I do love the score by Bruce. I'm going to call it, say, Bruce Brufton. Is that
Yes.
how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
Um, that score, especially there's a track in it called Waxing Elizabeth, which is that whole sequence, which
Easy.
is a little bit like Temple of Doom. Um,
Right.
I
Da,
think
da, da,
Dun, dun,
da,
dun, dun. I think
da.
that
Yeah,
music
it's
is
in my head.
better than John Williams'
Right? Temple of Doom
Temple of
soundtrack.
Doom. Yep.
Yeah. I thought of
It,
that too, because it does get in your it's an earworm. I'll tell you, I watched it last night and I kept thinking all like da, 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 da,
and a
da.
lot of that sequence does remind me of
Temple of Doom.
Temple of Doom and Short Round,
Yeah.
especially when he's evading all the thuggy guards. And there was that scene where he's rescuing Elizabeth, basically, where
Yeah.
he's dodging, and then he hits something, and then something hits the other guy, and he makes his way through. Lots of Temple of Doom comparisons
A
in
lot
there,
of
but
Temple of Doom.
I think it
Yeah.
works really well. And you know what? Actually, watching it back again last night, I wonder, did J.K. Rowling watch this and was a little bit inspired to create Harry Potter? Because
The
only
school.
because the
Yeah.
school, well, not only the school, but
No,
if we
go on.
notice, sorry,
The main bad guy with the blonde hair,
yeah, Dudley, Earl Rhodes,
Dudley.
when he
Yes.
goes, isn't he a Draco Malfoy?
That's what I was thinking too. When they put something in his tea and he turns all white and his hair goes white, he goes, "Oh, you'll be fine by summer."
Yeah,
I'm like, Jesus, I've seen this before, and I'm
I
thinking,
know.
like
Elizabeth
Harry
is
Potter,
is
right?
Hermione. You've
Well,
got
no, no, no. Well, Chris Columbus directed, or wait, yeah, he
he
directed some
did.
of the
He
Harry
directed the
Potter.
first
Yeah,
Harry Potter.
yeah. I
I
thought
wonder
they
if he
offered
had
that
a
to
deja
Spielberg.
vu.
Didn't they want Spielberg to direct the first Harry Potter and he turned it down?
I think so,
There's
something
some
like that.
weird story in there with that. I know Chris Columbus made them, but I know there was a Spielberg connection. I know John Williams did the music and such. But what was it? Oh, the Inspector Lestrade, but he's a sergeant in this film, looks a lot like Ronald Lacey, who was Tote in the Raiders of the Lost Ark. But you know what's funny? Ron Lacey's son is one of the bad guy, one of the kids. What would you just say his name was? Dudley.
Dudley's
One of
entourage.
Dudley's little hench guys is Ron Lacey's son.
Ah. Well, I will say that the guy who is Lestrade, actually you would know maybe if you watch Game of Thrones, because he's
Yes,
Mace Tyrrell from Game of Thrones,
that's
Roger
right. He's
Ashton
in Game of
Griffiths.
Thrones. Yes, he's in that show too.
So yeah,
But no, overall, like it's like the origin story of Sherlock Holmes because we see how he gets his pipe, we see how he gets his hat, like you said, all that too. But there's a cool backstory where they get drugged by the evil Egyptian empire or whatever you want
yes,
to call him. And it flashes back to like Sherlock Holmes betraying his father because he
yes.
spied on him, and the mother is like, what was that all about? And then, yeah, the pastry sequence, and then Elizabeth. It's pretty horrific for a PG-13 movie
Oh
because there's
yeah, that
a
was
lot
a
of
bit like
violence.
that was a bit like the from Poltergeist, in the pool with all
Yeah,
those skeletons.
when
And
she
the other
falls in the
thing,
open grave. Yeah. And the
actually
Crypt
watching
Keeper.
watching this back and thinking of the Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny trailer, when Sherlock and Watson go into that Egyptian bar to try and
Yes.
find out who the blow darts from,
Where the blowpipe came from.
and then they
Yeah.
all basically pull out their guns. It
Yeah,
reminds me of that. It's got a bit of an indie vibe, and
it does.
it's a great film. It's been deleted on DVD, but I'm sure you can find a secondhand copy.
I just saw it a couple of weeks ago. That's what started this
Yeah.
conversation. I was at Target and they had a special steel box version of it, I think it's a 4K of it. And
Cool.
I was gonna buy it and I called and told you, and you're like, oh, well, let's do it for the next show. And I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, and I went back to find it. It was gone. I'm like,
Uh,
damn it, I should have picked it up. Nice new artwork on the cover.
you can
Very good.
certainly rent it on Apple TV
Amazon
and
Prime here in the States, it was on
HD.
for free. I watched it.
Quickly, not much merchandise, unfortunately, for it. There was the main thing is the soundtrack that was released. The other thing, there was a Japanese only video game, which
Yeah,
wasn't really tied in, but I did find my trusty Young Sherlock Holmes storybook that I had.
I didn't know they made that.
Yep.
Look at that.
So it's quite a, they're always a fun thing from the 70s and 80s, those storybooks,
Yeah.
which I
There's
quite
no
love.
Marvel comic. There's no Marvel adaptation. There's no comic version of it. But I don't know. You know what though? At the end of the movie, though, it is a very entertaining movie, and I sat through the whole thing, and I was like,
Yep.
I really enjoyed it, even now, 30, 40 years later after
Oh,
watching it.
yeah.
At the end, they leave it open like the narrator. I don't know who the narrator is, but he's like, I do believe this will be not the only adventure I'll have with Sherlock Holmes because it was the adventure of a lifetime and all that. They almost leave it open for a sequel.
Well,
But
certainly
you said,
with the end, with that, you see that Atar survives
yeah,
and he
yeah,
is
and going
actually
through the snow.
Moriarty.
Yeah.
It's a cracker of a film. So make sure
Well,
you study for the end.
I think they figured why we don't need to make sequels. Obviously they didn't want to. They, of course, there's money to be had, but there's already so many
True.
Sherlock Holmes films, and everybody knows the story and Moriarty. There really is no need to make more sequels of
I
young
know, but
Sherlock
maybe
Holmes.
for a younger audience, trying to get
Yeah,
them, you've obviously got Robert Downey Jr. playing years later,
yeah,
trying
that's
to,
true. Yeah.
that sort of thing was sort of new or new twists on, classic stories. But it's
There
well
is a
worth.
little
Yep.
Easter egg because I said Chris Columbus was so worried that he was going to offend Arthur Conan Doyle, Sherlock Holmes fans on this. He was like extremely careful.
Yes.
They brought in, I can't think of the playwright's name. It's not Tom Stoppard, but they brought in a playwright to go through the
Jeffrey,
entire
it
thing.
it was the British author Jeffrey Archer.
That's it. That's it. Jeffrey Archer, to make sure that the language they spoke was pretty accurate. And there is a little bit of a goof because he says, "Oh, your name Watson is John or James," because of the J on his monogram stuff. In the books, the Sherlock Holmes books, Watson's wife in one story, Arthur Conan Doyle, called him James, and then they retcon. Well, they don't do
Yes.
retcons, but they did.
But
It's John. So there is like a little weird thing where it's John and James. So it's
yes.
up in the air. But It's a great movie. It's fun to watch. I mean,
It
I have a
is.
great time to do it. And
It is. And if you can track down the soundtrack, it's a really good soundtrack. They never released it on CD, but it is on vinyl and cassette. If you want to find out more about other films that maybe you've missed and would like to watch, we've got a whole selection, Mitch. How can you find out?
oh, real quick, there was one other thing I
Oh,
forgot to mention. Alan Cox, who plays young Watson, had a growth spurt during the making of the film, so much so that he was taller than the other actors at the end. So if you watch the very end of the movie, the other actors, when they on a scene with him, they're standing on milk crates to be a little taller than him. But you can see as he's
I
running
didn't
away at the
I
ducks,
didn't even notice that because
no, his
Nicholas
legs are
Rowe's
long.
6 foot. He's 6'4", Nicholas Rowe, so he's a big
And
guy.
now this, well, back then they were kids, but anyway, yeah, Alan Cox got taller and whatever. And his dad, Brian Cox, ends up playing, I think, Watson in a Sherlock Holmes movie too. But anyway, to find out more about us, you don't have to go into a bar and discuss Egyptian cults or anything like that. All you got to do is look down below. Don't get a magnifying glass or anything else. Just click the subscribe button. You too can go on an adventure with young Ed and I as we go back to the days of long gone when we used to be kids
That's
and go to
right.
see all these movies in the theaters like Young Sherlock Holmes.
That's
And
right.
that's that.
It's a great fun watch. So hope you enjoy it. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next episode.